Hey everybody, welcome back to my top 100 games everybody needs to play in their lifetime. We made it to the best of the best, the top 25, so let's jump in. Number 25 is Mortal Kombat Trilogy for the Sony PlayStation. Yeah, if you're mega rich and you're weird, you can play the Saturn version, but why would you? Don't bother with the N64 version, it sucks compared to the PlayStation version. I had both, I bought them both day one the same day. Anyways, this is the definitive 2D Mortal Kombat game. It's built on the Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 game engine, but it just brings back all the characters from the previous games and levels and stuff that weren't in Mortal Kombat 3. So it's like the definitive version of Mortal Kombat 3, technically. Great game. Awesome. I love it. Can't recommend it enough. Number 24, Donkey Kong Country for the Super Nintendo. Again, I know there's better Donkey Kong Country type games, more modern games and stuff, but this is the original. This is the one that started it, so you definitely need to play it. Number 23 is Super Metroid. Probably the best 2D Metroid game. Definitely the best one on the Super Nintendo, but also the only one on the Super Nintendo. Number 22 is Asteroids for the Atari 2600. Yes, I know there's an arcade original, but this is an instance where the home console version is actually the better version. And this is definitely the one you're going to want to play. So, I highly, highly recommend it. Number 21, Pole Position for the arcade as well. This isn't the first arcade racing game, but this is like the big one that everybody played back in the day. Number 20 is Shovel Knight Adventures. Now, I believe this game came out on the Wii U originally, but nobody owns a Wii U, so get the PC version if you can. And there might be other versions on other systems, I don't know. But this is like the best retro-style modern 2D platformer action Zelda type Metroidvania type game. It's hard to explain, but it's just like the perfect culmination of all the best parts of all the best 16-bit, 8-bit games wrapped up in one awesome game. Number 19 is Wolfenstein 3D for the PC. Again, there's a bajillion ports of this game, so any port will do. But if you can play it on the original DOS version on a PC, that's the best way to play it. Number 18 is Super Mario RPG for the Super Nintendo. I don't really have to tell you how great this game is. This is, it's been re-released in HD on the Switch, so you can play that version. It's probably good too. But if you can play the original Super Nintendo version, that's also worth it. Number 17, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for the arcade. This is the best version of Street Fighter 2, and the arcade version is the one you want to play. Number 16, Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for the Super Nintendo. Hands down the best Zelda game ever made. We're not even discussing it. Number 15, Pokemon Blue for the Game Boy. This is the one I played, and this is the game. Red and Blue are the games that introduced Pokemon to the world, so definitely you should check out Pokemon Blue. I like it better than Red, so sue me. Number 14, Super Smash Bros. Melee for the Nintendo GameCube. This, before the one that came out on the Switch, which is the definitive Smash Brothers. This was the ultimate version of Smash Brothers. So, I still recommend this one. Yeah, obviously you're going to play the one on the Switch, but you need to play Melee because this is the one that really took Smash Brothers to the next level. Number 13 is Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. Now, this is, in my opinion, the best video game of all time. This is my favorite video game of all time. But when I'm ranking the games that everybody should play, I think there's some other games that are a little bit more important than this one for different reasons. So this isn't necessarily based on my preferences. It's just based on the games that are the most important to play. But Super Mario World is absolutely a game you should play. Just one step more important, though, I put number 12, Sonic 2 for the Sega Genesis. Now, Sonic 2 is not a better game than Super Mario World, but I think it's slightly more important because, yes, Super Mario World is the game that really introduced people to the Super Nintendo. Sonic 2 is the game that really took the Genesis to the next level and made it competitive with the Super Nintendo. And really showed that Sega meant business. You know, they were really trying to be competitive. Number 11 is another 4-player arcade game. This is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Again, you really need to play the arcade version. The NES version is pretty good too, but it has its limits. Now we're finally into the top 10. Number 10, Mortal Kombat 2, the arcade game. Yeah, I think Mortal Kombat 1, for the historical context, is good and important, but Mortal Kombat 2 is like the best version of Mortal Kombat 1, if you will. And it's just like the best Mortal Kombat game. Number 9 is Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. This is the game that made 3D platforming and 3D gaming popular, like mainstream popular. And it's still a perfect game to this day. Number 8, Mega Man 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. While Mega Man 8 is the perfected formula for the 2D Mega Man games, Mega Man 2 is the best one you're going to play on the NES, and it's the one everybody plays. And yes, I'm like everybody else. 2 is the best. I've played them all. 2 is the best. Number 7, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Sony PlayStation. Yeah, I know you can get it on other consoles and modern PCs and stuff, but play it on the PlayStation if you can. Fantastic game. This is Castlevania at its peak. Number 6 is the Game Boy version of Tetris. Now, I specified this version for 2 reasons. One, it's Tetris. It's fun. Tetris is Tetris, but this is the one most people remember when they think of Tetris. And the historical context. You really need to experience this game so you can really understand why the Game Boy was such a phenomenon. Number 5 is Ms. Pac-Man. This is Pac-Man, again, perfected. And it's the best Pac-Man game ever made. Number 4, Doom for the PC. Now, Doom is on everything. You've played Doom. But if you can play the original shareware version of Doom on a DOS computer, that's how you should experience it. But the full version is just as good. Just stay away from the 16-bit versions. Number 3, Legend of Zelda for the NES. Obviously, Zelda was going to be on this list. This is one of the most important games of all time. This is the most important Zelda game because this is the first one, and it's still one of the best. Number 2 is Final Fantasy VII for the Sony PlayStation. Again, I can't say enough good things about this game. I go back and forth between this and Mario World if it's my favorite game of all time. It's the only game I've ever 100%ed that isn't a Mario game. I love this game. I played it so many times. Everybody needs to play Final Fantasy VII because this is the game that made console JRPGs mainstream. Like, they were popular enough in the Super Nintendo era, but they were still pretty niche. If you go back and look at the sales numbers, those 16-bit ones, Final Fantasy III, Chrono Trigger, etc., they were good games for the Super Nintendo, but they didn't move the needle. They didn't really drive sales. This one did. This is the reason the PlayStation was a household product. And number 1, not the greatest game of all time, but probably the most important video game of all time to most people, Super Mario Brothers for the NES. Everybody needs to play this game because gaming as we know it owes a lot to this game. This is the game that really, like, revitalized the video game industry when it was struggling. And this is the game that made gaming mainstream. So we wouldn't have, you know, our modern gaming culture today if this game hadn't done what it did. And it's just a great fucking game. I love this game. Who doesn't love Super Mario Brothers on the NES? I've played this game so many times. So many times. There you go. Greatest games of all time? No. But most important games? Most of them, yeah. Stay cool.